Hey, what is up everybody, my name is Rahul and in this video we'll be looking at a room called Juicy Details. So the description of the room is a popular juice shop has been breached. Analyze the logs to see what had happened. So we are provided with some task files which I already have gone ahead and downloaded. So the description says that you were hired as a SOC analyst for one of the biggest juice shops in the world and an attacker has made their way into the network. So download the attached file, type in I am ready, which we have done, and I already have them downloaded. So if you can see, this is the logs.zip file. So unzip logs.zip, and as we can see, we get provided with three files called the access.log, the auth.log, and the vsftpd.log. So with that, what tools did the attacker use? Order by the occurrence in the log. So I think we'll have to access the access.log because here he's talking about the tools that the attacker has used. So most of the tools are made against the website. So we'll be using Sublime Text. You'll know why. Downloads Sublime Text, Sublime, and access.log. So the first thing that we'll be doing is we'll be going to view and we'll be removing the word wrap, and we get this nice access.log details. So with that, the first question was, which tools did the attacker use? Order by the occurrence. Okay, so let's look for tools. So the first one that seems to be used, so as you can see, this is mozilla.5.0. so we'll be looking basically for the headers. So this part represents the headers. So the first is Nmap scripting engine. So the first tool that was probably used was Nmap. So we'll be typing in, and as you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 5 tools used. So Nmap. The second is, this is just the browser. As you can see, nothing much. As you can see, this is the second tool, that is Hydra. So let's type in Hydra. 3 more to go. So Hydra. So basically, I think Hydra is for they tried to brute force the login credentials. As you can see, it is accessing REST user login every time. So I think this is what they did to brute force the account credentials. So Hydra. With that, if you can see here that the next thing after this again, they use the browser to access, and just after the browser there's an SQL map, SQL map. So SQL map is for finding out SQL injection attacks. So with that, this is the third tool that was used against it, and SQL map was used quite often, and as you can see, there are a lot of queries made using SQL map. Again, SQL map. Then we have curl over here just before the just after the Mozilla one. So curl is the next one, and the next is just after the curl, which is Ferox Buster. So I do not know what this tool is for. So this so which endpoint was vulnerable to brute force attack? So just as we saw that they used Hydra for brute forcing, and this was the endpoint which was vulnerable to brute force attacks. So which endpoint was vulnerable to SQL injection? So we'll have to look for SQL queries over here. So the first occurrence of SQL map. So this is the first occurrence of SQL map, and this is the endpoint. So which parameter? So the parameter is, again, as you can see, after the question mark, the parameter is Q. And what endpoint did the attacker try to use to retrieve files? So let's see. And if you see towards the end, this is the endpoint with which it used to fetch the files. So FTP, which is for file transfer protocol, and for some reason they had it in the directory or in the website as well. So they used 2 files, they downloaded 2 files, which was www.data.back and coupons 2013 md.back, so ftp/ftp. So what a section of the website did the attacker use to scrap user email addresses? So this is quite an interesting question. So it says that which section of the website did the attacker use to scrap out user addresses, email addresses. So what would you typically see? So basically I would do reconnaissance from an attacker's perspective, and basically I would if you go to sites like Amazon and Flipkart, mostly you will find the usernames, not the email addresses, only the usernames in the product categories in the comments. So let's see if they have something like that, and I did see something like that. As you can see here, it is products and reviews. So I think it will be product reviews. As you can see, it was correct. So was their brute force attack successful? If so, what timestamp of the successful login? So again, we'll have to look for Hydra. So the last query of the Hydra, I think, will show us or will give us the login credentials, or it will prove that the login was successful. As you can see, these all are Hydras. 500 says that the service is not reachable, and or the request was not acceptable or something like that, and the 401 is for unauthorized. So let's look at the last request from Hydra, and as you can see, this is the last request from Hydra, and just after this the user got admitted to REST admin. So I think this is the last I think this is the query, or this is the last brute force attempt that they did, and yeah, it was successful. And this is the timestamp. What user information was the attacker able to retrieve from the endpoint vulnerable to SQL injection? Okay, so let's look for SQL map. So let's look at because these queries are quite difficult to understand. So let's what I did here was I looked from below. So as you can see, it says query union select. So it is a union attack, ID, email and password. So I think it tried to fetch the email and the password. So what files did they try to download from the vulnerable endpoint? So we know that it downloaded two files. One of them was coupon 2013 md.back. The second was www.data.back. So what service and account name were used to retrieve the files from the previous question? So this is an interesting question, and I'll tell you why. Because see, whenever you try to log in using FTP, it will not show in the access log directory or in the access log file, because this is the general web server. So if you are looking for FTP logins, what you have to do is you will have to look for the service. The service is vsFTPD. So this is it. It tried to connect to the client. This is the local address, loopback address, and as you can see, anonymous. It tried to log in as anonymous, and the client the service used was FTP and anonymous. What service and username were used to gain shell? So again, for shell you look for SSH, and for SSH you can look in auth.log, and here it is. So it says failed password for www.data. So service is going to be SSH, and the username is as usual www.data, because it says that failed password for www.data. So I think it tried to log in using www.data. So as you can see, we are done with the challenge. So thank you guys, this is it for the video. I hope you like it. If you did like it, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.